I'm gonna go ahead and drop this shameless plug here. In Vegas, me and Dan and Bree and Philip actually kind of came up with this idea just in the car. Like within like a 2 or 3 minute drive, we're talking about T-shirts, and we're all kind of going off each other, bouncing ideas, and we came up with this crazy idea for a T-shirt that's basically
like a concert tour shirt.
Yeah, like imagine like a concert tour shirt for like Def Leppard, and on the back it's got, like all the locations or a map, and that's exactly what it is. It's the American Soundscape 2018 tour.
And we're only printing like 100 of them.
Yeah.
Very limited edition.
Yeah.
So
buy them now.
Been going back and forth.
So get your pre-orders in.
Yeah.
We'll figure out how to take that. I don't know. We're just figuring out as we go. We never sold T-shirts. We just gave them away all the time. You sell hey, John sells T-shirts, so he'll just walk in and he's going to give us some advice.
That's right. John's got the new was it handcrafted shop or something? What is it called?
It's cool. I really like what he's doing with that. It's
it's called handcrafted gear.
Handcrafted gear. That's right.
Gear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got a fancy Facebook page and a website and everything. It's like professional.
Trying, man. Trying.
It's awesome.
Trying to make it cool.
Welcome to the Eschatology Podcast. This is Klifton, and I am joined today by Dan Ungaro and Pierce Barrett. Hey, guys.
What's up?
Hey, Cliff.
You guys have been doing some traveling lately. You're normally out of the Texas area. Where are you guys at right now?
We are in Chandler, Arizona, which is a little south of Phoenix.
And
it's all like one big city, as far as I can tell. Right. Like all the places I ever heard of outside of Tucson and Flagstaff, I think, are all here. Everything / Arizona
right there
is here, which is crazy, but it's pretty. So
yeah, the rest of Arizona is like right. Yeah, and you guys have been kind of doing a West Coast tour following SEMA, correct?
No, actually before SEMA.
Okay.
So yeah, we kind of been traveling around, visiting various shops and places that we feel kind of exemplify what the high-end car audio industry is about.
Okay. So I met Dan originally, I think around in 2012, which is probably around the same time that Pierce had just got his driver's license. So
finished middle school, maybe.
Right.
I got my driver's license in 2011.
Oh, well, there you go. You beat us.
Wow.
Now I feel old. So Dan, for those who don't know you, how did you kind of get started in audio and car audio?
I've been involved with music since I was a kid, and I've played drums since I was 10 years old. So finding a job that had something to do with music was pretty much a life goal. And I attempted audio engineering, went to college for a little bit for that, and did some studio work and stuff like that. But the chances of making a living with that is kind of low, especially if you don't go to the right schools or whatever.
Right.
I kind of ditched that and decided to try to become a rock star instead of recording them. And I was looking for jobs that were low commitment while I was doing that, trying to be, play in music and stuff. And I applied at Circuit City. They had the only two positions they had were that were not commission based were install and warehouse. And I'd already had a warehouse job at Sam's Club before, so I took install, even though I knew nothing about car audio, and kind of learned from there. So Circuit City was my beginning.
And where did you progress from there to eventually owning your own shop then?
It took about 9 years, something like that.
So you're an overnight success, is what you're saying.
Totally.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, I got this, and I just jumped right into it. So I took 9 years of working at Circuit City and Tweeter and Car Toys. Tweeter is where I had the ability to play with fabrication tools and stuff like that. Okay. And so it kind of, there's like different steps that have kind of reinvigorated my passion into this. And, at first figuring out and doing all the wiring and stuff was the thing. And then fabrication was the thing. And then, which is still kind of is. And, but then SQ when I started Soundscape in 2010, I was kind of doing it so I could do more fab, but then we kind of got introduced to DSP and stuff like that, and my audio engineering background kind of kicked in there, and I got super interested in it. So kind of marrying together the fabrication and the sound quality side of it is kind of what Soundscape is built on, and it's kind of been doing that for the last 10 years, or since 2010 anyway. So.
Right.
And then Pierce came along. What year did you come along?
2015 or 16? 15 or 16?
Was it?
I've been
no,
with
at
you
the end of 15, because 16 is when we won retailer, so you were there for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And in 2015.
Yeah, September of 2015.
Yeah. But he jumped in and just, I mean, from minute one was like great. So even Greenwood said so, and that's saying a lot. So
That's just Greenwood saying something. Step one. So
other than it's gonna be terrible.
Hi, Greenwood. Pierce, did you have any background in car audio before you came to Soundscape, or was this kind of your first gig?
No, it was actually my second.
Okay.
So I kind of got interested in audio around when I was 14, maybe. I was almost 15. And it was funny, my dad had just gotten a new truck, and we were putting a system in it, and nowhere near the quality of what we do now. But I kind of helped him with that, and I don't know, something about it just sparked in my brain. It was like there was a little trigger that set off, and I was like, you know what, this is kind of cool. I like this. So when I was 15, I started kind of, getting into it, and, just using my computer to find out anything. I was on a couple of forums. This is before Facebook groups were really big, so I was on a couple of forums looking around, YouTube, watching videos, and I actually was installing a few things for friends that I had in high school. So I didn't even have a car yet. And I was putting radios in and subs and amplifiers for some of my friends. And I remember it was right before I was 16, I did a radio in like a Dodge truck, and I blew up the BCM in it.
Nice.
So before I even had my own first car, or before I had my own car.
We didn't talk about this in your interview, dude.
I wasn't going to tell you about that.
We're gonna have to have a conversation after this, because I didn't know you were a car killer.
Your pay is going to have to be renegotiated.
Oh no, we don't need to. No, we don't need to do that.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
So then after that, I was 16 and kind of had my own car to mess up now. Built my first sub box, didn't understand what a port was. I just cut a hole in a box, and I blew up my sub and didn't understand why, but progressed from there. And then when I was 17, almost 18, I got a job at a local shop around where I lived in Dallas. And there was a guy there, his name's Sean, and he kind of took me under his wing and then taught me the majority of everything that I knew before I came to Soundscape. And I was there for about 2 years.
Okay.
I was about to turn 20 when I came to Dan. And then I've been with Dan ever since, unfortunately.
He's a good kid.
This isn't video, guys, so people are going to make up, what kind of story is going on in the background. So in 2016 or 17, was it when you guys got Retailer of the Year? 16.
Yeah.
And then it was 2017 that Pierce got Rookie of the Year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Soundscape has been, for quite a few years now, at least as long as I've known you, been one of the benchmark shops in the U.S., I would say, in terms of...
man, thank you.
if
that feels good.
If somebody asks me, hey, how do we need to do this, or how do we get better, or, any of those things, Soundscape is definitely one of the top 5 of the shops that...
Who are the other 4?
You've probably been to most of them in the past week.
Well, the thing is the reason why we've chosen these shops is because these are the ones that we stole all the ideas from, right? That's why we did the open house at Knowledge Fest for a few years, was because we kind of felt like it was an example of all the things that we learned from Knowledge Fest over the years, and from our friends who are the super inspirational and, motivating ones. So just steal a bunch of ideas, and that's how it happens.
And that sounds terrible when you say it like that. You didn't steal; we modified. You took an original idea and you expanded upon it. Because
everything.
I didn't invent lasagna. I just made it like ours.
Well, yeah, that's the difference of going, Texas Roadhouse to Morton's. There's going to be a difference in quality there.
Well,
We made our own.
Everything's a remix, right?
There's no original ideas anymore. Just watch movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Soundscape obviously was, I mean, one of the biggest things I noticed when I first visited Soundscape compared to some of the other shops in the country is, one, I mean, Dan, you were, always quite on top of it and
Did you say wiped?
driven.
Did you say wiped?
No, on top of it and driven,
Right, I say quite. I was like, well, I'm always tired when you see me, I'm sure.
Right. No, like, I mean, first thing in the morning, you're out there with your clipboard and your checklist and going through it. And if I was in the area for a few days, I'd be there on day one of visiting, and there'd be, a Ferrari and a Lamborghini and whatever else, and 5 or 6 different cars in the bay, and then come back 3 days later and there's 5 or 6 completely different other cars in the bay, other than maybe one that was there for like 3 years, but we won't talk about it.
I was going to say, you're lucky if you came back and saw different cars. I'm an installer who started a shop, so it would be ridiculous for me to compromise at all on the things that I started on. And my car audio dad, my mentor growing up, when I first started at Circuit City was Steve Vining, and he showed me, he was the one who kind of made me care, because I thought it was a kid's job, and I thought that for a lot of years. But it wasn't until, I don't know, honestly, it wasn't until I started my own shop that I really started to really understand how serious this could be, and I started to talk to manufacturers directly and feel more in touch with the product and the techniques and the people who are really in the innovators in the industry.
Right.
And I don't know, it just changed my whole outlook on it. I was like, no, this is a very grown-up thing to do. And that's really what ultimately led to our tagline of Car Audio for Grown-ups. And I think it really well encapsulates the nature of what we do.
No, I agree completely. And there's a lot of misconception out there about what car audio is and is not, and that it's not all one thing, and that it can be something that's amazing and professional and looks good and sounds good and does it all. And that's really what you've mastered along the way. You reached, a lot of pinnacles in the retail side of thing. And then all of a sudden, the next time I visit, you have what looks like a recording studio in your new facility. And then the next time, there's like a, 27,000 inch TV in there and a media console. So what's going on with all this video and media stuff? Because, I mean, you guys were always, I mean, one of the things that has always been great about you is you give me lots of media to be able to share. You've always had a lot of media in your marketing for the company, and that has grown up a little bit in the past year or so. So what was your inspiration for going deeper?
Actually, in the last 2 years, we've really gone through a revamp that we haven't really made super public. So I spent a lot of time building the shop around what the kind of model that most people are going for, I guess.
Right.
But I kind of felt like we were heading in a different direction organically. So, I mean, like at the beginning of this year, we went appointment only.
Locked door.
Locked door appointment only. We let the phone take messages most of the time. And we do online booking and all that kind of stuff, so that we're able to really focus on what we're doing. And we're down to just me and Pierce now. I mean, David went off to Avant-Garde. Sorry, I always feel like I'm saying it wrong. Avant-Garde, and he's doing killer stuff over there. At the end of last year, Greenwood went over to work with Alpine, and he's doing really well there. He's very happy. So we had to kind of manage our workflow.
Right.
Because Pierce and I are good, I think, but we're not gods. So we needed to focus things, and what it really allowed us to do was to kind of
focus on efficiency.
Yeah, we focus on efficiency and the quality of what we're doing, and it's been a learning process this year. But what it allowed us to do is to do stuff like what we're doing now, because we're able to dictate what when we left the shop, almost 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
We just booked ourselves out.
Yeah.
That's all we did.
Right.
We just booked ourselves busy, and this is the project we're working on. And we were lucky enough to have the circumstances to make that happen. So the studio thing is something that was at first kind of a selfish deal. I'd had my drums crammed into my office in the previous location.
Right.
Because I couldn't really play in my new house because neighbors and stuff.
Details.
But in the new location, we had an extra room, and so I kind of made that into the recording studio. And when we decided to do this American Soundscape project, I expanded into another room. We moved our inventory room into another one, and then made a control room.
You made that sound so fluid and so easy. Like, I can't, like, we kind of scaled down our inventory because we kind of plan out a lot of the jobs.
Right.
So most everything we do is either planned out by a few weeks or maybe a few days sometimes. It just depends on how long it takes to get product in. I kind of like reorganize the stock room, that way, we could make use of the most space that we had.
Right.
And I spent like half a day, destroying shelves, moving stuff, restacking things, reorganizing it. And then Dan the next day was like, hey, so we're going to use the stock room to now record and do the editing. And I'm like, oh, thanks.
Oh, really?
So there's now 2 rooms out of, if you've been to the shop, you kind of understand the flow is how the shop goes. And there's rooms. We have it kind of segregated into a certain layout. And there's the sound cave, which is where the control center used to be, but now it's just the room, and Dan's actually gone through and acoustically treated the room and just so that they can record for their band. And then now he's kind of parlayed that into music for the TV show.
Okay.
It's a 2-room studio now, so we have a control room where I can do video editing and mixing and all that kind of stuff, and then a tracking room where we track the music, which is totally non-car or audio related, and it's just totally selfish and ridiculous. So
that's part of living the dream, right? I think I've had countless people who have said over the years, what car audio needs is exposure and media and TV attention and all these things, and there's been a couple people who have given it a half-hearted effort. I would say of the years that I've seen doing something consistently that's not just tagged onto something else and going in full force on your own, essentially. I mean, you guys have gone way beyond what anybody else has done. And it was during SEMA, right? You guys did the premiere of American Soundscape?
Yes.
Yeah.
The pilot dropped that Monday night.
So it's
this
right.
last scene.
So it's fairly recent.
Yeah, but the thing has been a project that's been on my mind for probably about 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Because when we first started the shop in 2010, we were kind of seeing what's out there, and we saw Doug Bernard's doing his thing on Soundman, and
right.
I thought that was really entertaining and fun, and we kind of thought like, well, how would we do it if we were doing something like that? And, it was kind of something that stuck in my mind for a long time. So it's been a long time since I thought of that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until we started really making videos, and I worked with a guy who was a producer, and we made some videos for EHOW, which was a total disaster. It was stupid. He and I both realized that like what EHOW was trying to do with like trying to make a question and answer thing for car audio was like the most ridiculous thing in the world.
Right.
So we said, let's make our own videos. And so if you look at the Soundscape marketing and stuff like that, Oliver, it's just kind of like, we did this project. We're going to show you what we did.
Right.
And there's a lot of learning that we did throughout that process. And then, we talked about the idea for American Soundscape for years. And, I kept thinking about how could I walk the line on it to where it would be respected in the industry, but still entertaining to the public.
Right.
It's really, there's a lot of industry facing stuff. And I think those guys who are doing that do very well with it. And I don't think I'm qualified to do those things. I think there's guys that teach techniques very, very well, and there's guys who give advice very well and talk about the daily struggles of the business and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think I'm really qualified to do that stuff, but I think I can present things well, which is what I've done with Soundscape. And I've always had a passion for video and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know, this kind of seems like the natural progression when we freed ourselves up at the shop to be able to do the things that we want to do,
right?
Which is sounds ridiculous to say that, but it's allowed us to be able to do something like this and not feel like it's a total departure from what we're doing.
In the pilot episode, which I think I'd seen the trailer, the very beginning of, I'd never seen the whole episode until it actually went live, but you guys go through a few different things going on, but it mostly revolves around a single build that you guys did at your location. Is it going to be continuing to be based on you guys, or is all this traveling have to do with you presenting what you just mentioned, other retailers, other struggles, other builds, events, etc.
As I said before, like none of this has happened in a bubble, and I
Right.
put that in our little release on that. But all the stuff. I mean, we're here at Handcrafted, and I can't tell you how many times in the early years, I sat down and talked to John Covenants about just how to do this, because I mean, there's no manual for being a car stereo shop,
Right.
and particularly one that you just started on a passion,
Right.
and we're all trying to figure it out. And so I learned so many things from him, from all these guys around the industry. I mean, it's unbelievable how much input I've had. And I feel like when we got the opportunity to do this show, I didn't want to start with doing builds at the shop. I mean, obviously the pilot had to be done that way because, we had to prove the concept.
Right.
But I really wanted to make sure that we went and hit the other shops first, because my concept was never to do a Soundscape show. I mean, it's called American Soundscape, but that's because Soundscape to me means a lot more than just it's not my shop, really.
It's all encompassing,
it's an idea.
Right.
Yeah. And so I wanted to make sure that we didn't, because if we start shooting at home and doing the builds at home, it would be easy to run out of money and then be like, well, it's just the Soundscape show now, And I didn't want to do that to my friends. I didn't want to do that to the industry, because I don't think it's fair to say that we are the authority or anything like that on the way the stuff is done. I firmly believe the opposite, but I think that we have a good idea, and I think we have a good presentation of the way we do it. I think that these other shops do the same thing, and they don't have the benefit of, all the video experience we have. So we're going around and visiting these guys and showing how they do the same thing in a different way.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're learning a heck of a lot while we're doing this.
And this is something that I've actually come to realize doing this whole traveling right now, is that there's so many different ways to get to one location, or to one finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like there's so many shops that have different processes or different ways that they do things, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. There's so many different ways that we can all end up in the same point. And it's just amazing to see all these creative ideas and how it doesn't matter where you started or where you began, and it's just
So I assume this is much more like How It's Made style show versus American Chopper.
Well, somewhere in the middle, because so the pilot, we kind of consider the pilot to be a concept car,
Right.
It's very slick, it's very polished, all that stuff, and it's still, we're going to play with the way that that's done. We wanted to really show what our idea is with that. Obviously, us shooting on the road is going to be very different, because it's not, for one, we kind of just hit the road and did this. So the shops we're visiting, for the most part, we didn't schedule builds. We didn't, it was kind of like, hey, can we come by next week?
Right.
Sort of. And they've been gracious enough to let us in and let us shoot all the stuff and take up their time.
It wasn't even originally about the builds, though, as much. I mean, that's kind of like the
ideally, I want to do builds in everybody's facilities, depending on what they have going on. And the thing is, the idea is that we do customer builds. That's the thing, is that SSR was a customer build. I know it.
Right.
It was kind of a crazy build and all that kind of stuff, but that's why we chose it. I mean, we do those from time to time, and they're not always flashy and they're not always amazing. I mean, we have a big build that we're going to shoot that is phenomenal. It's going to be, but it's not going to be cosmetic whatsoever. It's going to be just the guts.
Right.
And I think people will be very, surprised and interested when they see what that entails.
Yeah, the amount of work that's going to go into it just to achieve a certain amount of sound quality while not appearing to be that way. So it'll be completely stealth and have this superb amount of just almost at like an IASCA expert level competing car.
That's what we're shooting for. I mean,
this car could compete an expert.
I would hope so.
Yes.
I mean, but the thing is that we want to make this client super, super happy, and that's just the goal. So we feel that build will be a good couple episode build, because it is a huge one. We'll have some other builds that we're going to do at the shop as well, and it's a lot easier to control in our environment because, I mean, when we set up the shop, I mean, we kind of knew that we shoot video there, right? I mean, not that we were going to shoot a show, but we knew we were going to shoot all sorts of promo videos that we do anyway.
I actually think lighting was one of the big things when we were looking at locations.
Yeah, and I was going to say that the lighting is probably your biggest hurdle when you go into different locations and trying to keep it consistent.
Totally. And that's where, the season, because we're shooting an entire season in one shot right now. The road portion is the first portion, which I consider to be like half of the show, half of the season. And then we'll shoot the other half at our place. And so there'll be a good mix of builds and other shops and the work they're doing. We were up at Musicar and we got to see some fabrication going on from a couple different of the guys there. Yeah. And kind of get a feel for how they operate and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's really interesting to see how many different ways you can skin this cat, And I don't know, it's eye-opening across the board.
So do you have a goal on how this is going to be ultimately, what the viewership is going to be? Is it going to be YouTube? Is it going to be network? Is it going to, what's your goals?
So it's not going to be network.
Okay.
Yeah, we're flat out not doing that just because whenever you have whenever you try to do something on like Discovery or something like that, it's, highly produced and promoted and all that kind of stuff, but it's, there's the economy of time in there. So, when you have a time slot on TV, that's worth exponentially more than just some drive space on Netflix or something like that.
Right.
We don't want to compromise the content. The reason why it's taken so long for me to get to this point is that I wanted to keep it clean and keep it above board, as much as possible. So that any shop or any, manufacturer, enthusiast, whatever, would feel comfortable sharing it or watching it or whatever, and not feel like we were stepping on anybody's toes.
If you alternate between Pierce quitting and Pierce getting fired every other episode, you never know.
Well, see, that's kind of exactly what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
We don't want the manufactured drama. The build time on the pilot was actually real. I still have nightmares thinking about how we stayed up for 3 days trying to finish that vehicle just so the customer could listen to it for a few hours before he left for 6 weeks.
Right.
So, that's as far as the drama really needs to go. Me and Dan are not going to have fake fights. I'm not going to throw things at him.
We can have real fights. Why have fake ones?
Well, the thing is,
this isn't South Beach Tow.
Well, and that in this industry, come on, this is an industry of people that are full of passion and drive.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. There's enough drama.
Who is not a character? Come on, name me a boring person in this industry, right? It's not going to happen.
I won't, because they might beat me up.
It naturally happens. And the one complaint that we got about the pilot was there just wasn't enough interaction between me and Pierce. And so, it's like, well, we kind of had to piece this thing together, but,
It's hard when one of you have to be running the camera at all times.
Right. So, we're making it happen as much as we can, and we figure that, I'm just going to make this first season as good as we can, and hopefully people enjoy it and get behind it, and if it's successful, then we can keep doing more.
So that's the other part of it. How do you get paid? Is there...
Well, that's a tough question to ask right now, because we're kind of developing what that is going to be like, because basically I want to have it available as a full episode, because it's going to be a 30-minute episode, to everybody, right? And really, if I can just put this out there for free for everybody, I absolutely would. But I'm putting all my chips on the table here to do this.
We close the shop for 6 weeks. We're not in business for 6 weeks to do this.
This is a total. We're just going to do this and just like a build. When we start a build, it's like I don't know exactly where every screw is going to go and where every panel is going to end up and all that kind of stuff, but I trust in my ability to do it. This is a little different, but hey, we're car audio guys, so we just do what we're not supposed to do all the time.
Right. So if somebody, do you have a plan as far as, if somebody either from a brand level or in the industry or an enthusiast or whomever wants to chip in to see this happen, do you have a way of doing that yet? Or
well, the way that I'm looking at it is if we can put it on a medium like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or something like that, and depending on how we decide to do it, we can do any one of those. my current idea, and this isn't set in stone, is just to have like a title sponsor or something like that. That's kind of like the main sponsor for the whole show. And so on that medium, they would be there, and then whatever other sponsors we have will be listed in credits and all that kind of stuff. Anything on the show, as far as like content wise, is just what we do. That's why I don't want audio sponsors. It's been a really tough line to walk. I don't want to do. At first, I said no 12-volt sponsors at all.
Right.
And it's just really hard to find people who have any vested interest in it who are not 12-volt, right? There's a few, but we're going to try. You know, I want to try to keep it as uncompromised as possible, and, you know, it's a tough thing to do. I think we'll probably release clips out on social media as like sponsored clips and stuff like that from different sponsors. I really haven't worked the numbers on it. We're still working on it, but right now I'm getting the content together to make sure that we have something that's worthy of anybody investing in.
Gotcha.
And so far, it is, I think.
Right.
I mean, the stuff we've got is, I think we're way more excited about this than the stuff we shot for the pilot, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's so, well, for one, it's not us. So, of course, we're more excited about it.
Right.
And we're shooting video of all of our idols. All of the guys that I've looked up to for a decade and a half, probably.
Right.
You know, so it's, I don't know. I feel like this is going to be such a dynamic season. It's really ridiculous.
On the flip side of that, with you learning all these things, obviously right now at this exact moment, the show is your biggest intent. But have there been things even in the past, you know, couple weeks that you've seen that you want to immediately take back to apply at Soundscape as the retailer?
More than you know.
So week one, we were at Gary Bell's shop and Define Concepts in LA.
Yep.
And we were like, oh yeah, we need to redo our whole shop. Immediately, it's like, what are we doing?
We need a laser. We need it like now. I mean, but that's not even the only thing. As far as there's so many things that we want to change at the shop now. Like I'm looking at the wood shop and I'm like, oh, we could be so much more efficient with changing this. You know, having it like this, and with the welding, the all the aluminum and all of that. You know,
just
different things.
Just materials.
Yeah.
I mean, watching Justin build that door panel at Mobile Solutions last week or the last couple of days.
Right.
Built an entire door panel in like 3 or 4 days, from design to, you know, Tom and him, they both designed it, and he built it, and it was beautiful. I mean, holy crap, beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and all. I mean, yeah, this is just a huge learning experience.
Yeah.
So
That
I
sounds-
mean, even like, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it sounds like it's been a very motivational experience. Regardless, it's no matter what happens, you're going to come out better on the other side for it.
Most definitely.
But exhausted.
Yeah.
We haven't had a day off since July.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Well,
Like a good night's sleep.
and luckily you have your fully stocked tour bus to take you around, right?
Oh
Yeah. Yeah, my
got a
Audi
driver.
A4.
That also
And
has
with
a
its
trunk
full
build,
trunk
right?
build.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at some old videos and you see my Audi, my demo car, that has no trunk space whatsoever. We just put a trailer hitch and a rack on the back, and just put tubs on the back of it and drag that thing all over the West Coast.
literally dragged. That's kind of the joke, is we're scraping across the coast because
Yeah.
the Audi's so weighed down that the rack is about 4 inches off the ground. So any change, you know, like going up like a driveway or going up an entry into like a business, you just scrape right through.
Yeah.
And it sounds so bad. People stare at us, and
Yeah, we got evidence of our existence everywhere.
Yeah, we followed script marks to see where we went.
That's awesome. So for those who haven't seen it or want to follow things going, where's the best place for them to follow you guys as far as in social media and that?
YouTube, Soundscape Car Audio, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
So just
you know, all the majors.
Yeah.
so you're pretty much keeping all the channels. That's where you're active on everything.
Trying.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Not so much LinkedIn. Nobody responds.
You can change your job position every week, and everybody will like it.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I have a lot of different positions at Soundscape, so
Right.
you know.
See, just do it constantly, and people will keep up. What was feedback like on the pilot?
Amazing.
Good.
Yeah, for one, it was relieving to finally put it out, because we've been, you know, we kind of put a
Yeah.
teaser out at the beginning of the year.
Right.
There's only so much you can talk about it and then nothing ever happened. So like we talked about it for a year, and keep having people asking, like, when are we going to see this? When are we going to see this? And I hadn't even showed my own girlfriend until like it aired.
Right.
So there was very few people. I think complete. It was me, Dan, and a couple people that at the shop that had seen it.
And
Right.
I shared it with a few people. Well, I don't know the final polished version. I'm not sure that even. There's some of our friends that I shared it with because I was like, I really wanted to make sure that there was consensus that we were on the right track.
Right.
I by no means think it's perfect, for sure. But we needed to be on the right track in the spirit of it to be clear of what we were trying to do. And, the comments that we got with the trailer were like, well, yeah, until you start doing drama, until you start catching stuff on fire on purpose and stuff like that, or being a shill for a company or something like that, It
Right.
wasn't until we put out the full episode that people got it, I think. And we're like, oh, they really mean what they said. Like they really want to make this a legit kind of stand-up show.
And I was honestly surprised at how genuinely entertaining it was.
Thanks, Cliff.
Well,
I'm glad you're so entertained by watching me.
I've always been entertained by watching you. I just didn't know how that was going to translate into a TV show.
Me either. But I think we got a pretty good idea now.
That's kind of the thing, though, is it's not designed to be entertaining to just car audio people.
Right.
Like we're reaching out and trying to grab an audience that's completely outside of car audio.
Right. Well, and I think I mentioned it during the actual live feed on Facebook, but my 10-year-old who, just to give you an example of the type of person my 10-year-old is, we were at a steakhouse and the waitress comes by and he kind of puts his finger out. This was he was like 7 or 8 years old. He puts his finger out, calls her over. He asks her what her name is. And then he calls her by name and he goes, yeah, this food is not good. So this is
bold.
This is somebody who, no matter what it is, it's too hot, it's too cold, it's too wet, it's too dry, it's, something. And, he was sitting there next to me while I was watching it. And he was like, this is really entertaining. This holds my attention. I was like, oh, that's cool. So
we'll tell Goldilocks we appreciate his approval.
Right. So I figure you can get, that's at least like an 8.6 on IMDb. So
wow.
Yeah.
Let's put that one on there.
Right.
Dan, I need to create my profile. I need to go get some headshots. Dan, you want to pay for some headshots?
After we get you a haircut, sure.
Right. And shave and a shower and yeah.
Hey, I shower.
So what's your upcoming schedule? Are you guys pretty much done with your West Coast tour and going back to Texas, or what's the plan?
Oh no.
So you want to?
We're actually in Arizona. We're in Arizona right now,
Right.
and we're probably going to leave here Saturday morning. It's going to take us about 15 hours to get home. So we'll be home pretty much Sunday and Monday, and then
We got to finish a truck that we didn't quite finish before we left.
Yeah, and then Tuesday we fly out again.
Oh wow! So
Yeah.
And we're gonna be shooting Perfectionist up in Alaska.
oh nice.
Yeah. How cool is that? When I say we're going to see our friends, we mean it.
We're going to
And
Alaska.
John was very inviting and was like, yeah, come on up and, we'll show you around. So
That's amazing.
it's my bucket list thing to be in Alaska sometime in my life ever since I was a kid. So this is another selfish thing.
So if this all pans out, I have to ask: are you going to go international with it?
So it's funny you say that. There has been talks.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything because I don't know anything, but I don't know. There was someone who suggested they could hook us up with some people outside of the country, which, you know what? I would love to do an American Soundscape abroad.
Well, I think there would be, honestly, I think that's where a lot of the demand would end up being, and especially be interesting because, it's funny because you think of, especially like, let's use competition, for example. It's a very small niche within a very small niche. You get very caught up in the people and, perceived drama here or there and issues and whatever else. And there's always this perception that somebody out there has it all figured out and there's no other problems. And then, I've been to Japan, the UK, et cetera, and you go over there and then, you talk to these people and you sit down after a couple days and everybody gets comfortable, and then you realize that it's car audio just in a different spot. It's all exactly the same stuff.
You don't believe how many comments and stuff we get in Spanish. And I think it's because David was with us and he brought like a lot of attention to our shop with his following.
Right.
And but yeah, I think that our reach is getting out there. And I guess I didn't really even think about like trying to promote our stuff like in Europe or anything, but that would totally make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
Cool.
Cliff.
Well, who needs that haircut? All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. And whenever you hit that international tour button, just know that you got a spot to talk anytime you want.
Okay, so are we getting a phone call? Come on, Pierce.
I'm sorry.
But so if everybody would go and watch the pilot, just watch it, and if you like it, share it, please. Because right now, that's getting that out there and showing that there's people actually interested in this.
Right.
Is going to be what motivates sponsors to help us keep making it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can't tell you how. I mean, there are no millionaires involved in this.
Right.
This is literally us just doing it, and you know, with a little bit of help. But getting
the viewership numbers.
Grassroots help with this. That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'll put a link. I'll put a link in the show notes of the show here as well. So anybody can start clicking straight there. Even if you watched it before, go watch it again.
Yep. Hit replay a lot. Put on a playlist. Yes, put on a playlist. That's really what it is.
Yep.
If you favorite it and put on a playlist, I think that helps. I don't know.
Is the YouTube spot your main hub for it, or is it the Facebook, or both, or what do you prefer?
Both. It's the viewership is a little bit different between the two, but both.
Our following on Facebook is much larger because it's a wider medium, I guess, as far as pictures and then posts and all that kind of stuff.
And everybody's there all the time.
Yes. But then YouTube is probably a better venue for like the actual episodes if we don't get it onto a Hulu or Netflix or something.
Right.
Okay. We're still investigating and kind of figuring out that part of it. So
sure. Understood. All right, guys. Well, safe travels, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Klifton.
sir.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.